So now tapping in, something like that. Like, subscribe, ID in the Discovery channel. Yes, ID in the Discovery channel. The links are provided below. Get that Discovery Go app as well as that ID Go app. You might want to get those two things, combine them, make them into one. So visa applicants. Did you hear about that? The visa applicants will now be forced, yes, to provide their information such as social media usernames, websites, as well as locations of the websites and social media usernames on various platforms. The State Department is in fact in regulation of what I just said. Did you get that? The State Department is going to make visa applicants provide their usernames on social media. All this because, see, you got terrorist acts that in fact go on, and that's not to say that all individuals that come here as visitors or immigrants, that's not to say that they are in fact terrorists, and yet you don't never know who's practicing what or why, which is the reason for such. So when it comes to them providing the usernames on social media platforms as well as websites they possess, right? They will have to provide 5 years worth of that information. Email addresses as well as phone numbers go along with that as well. All that is in fact required. That's a new regulation, and it is in fact expected to have an effect on 14.7 million people annually. That's a lot of people. Isn't that a lot of people, dear viewer? There's both official along with diplomatic visa applicants who will remain unaffected by the change. Anyone who travels to the United States will again be required to hand over all in which I just stated. The point in all being enforced in the way that it is being enforced is for purpose of upping security, such as the screening process. When you're trying to improve a system, you want to sort out the good from the bad. In the past, applicants who had visited locations involving terrorists would have been the individuals required to provide such information as verification on their identity and their involvement of activities. Because the information like that is able to provide who's all tied to what and the reason. Social media can tell you a lot about a person. It in fact can, which is why that sort of thing, yes, is being forced to be provided. Because if you go and look where somebody say books, like on Facebook, you can in fact like what type of books or films or groups that you're in, all of that. CIA has access to everything, and yet it's still vital and wise to make that a requirement, because they say that individuals are in fact oftentimes too coming from America, going to other lands and joining in with terrorist groups, and then trying to come back, make their way back here. And some have in fact got stuck over in other lands, right? It's to say you want to know what people are practicing, as in what they're in. And that's not to say all visitors and immigrants are doing illegal actions or tied up and stuff like that. No, that's not this. It's a safety approach with that, which is the point, right? So website data of individuals is required as well in relation to the regulations. I'm saying all that is a vital. You know how much information you can get off of one individual just based off their social media account. And yet, even having social media accounts, sometimes people don't even put all their information there. And some people in fact do. I was thinking, because when I think about immigrants and visitors outside of the US, even some that might be in Europe or whatever, that's to say, I'm saying visitors, That's to say, would those individuals put everything on their social media account, or would certain things in fact be hidden or whatnot, right? If the State Department in relation to that, what all, I ask you, dear viewer, because even you probably being a viewer, U.S. citizen, you're not a visitor, or maybe you are leaving, coming back and forth, right? You're not an immigrant is what I'm trying to say. Maybe you are, right? That's to say, me asking you, well, I don't really want to ask you all like that because that's putting too much information, but just think about it. What all personal information do you or do you not put on your social media accounts? Because I'm sure there's, in fact, some people call them foreigners, right? They might say, well, they think different than Americans. Who knows, right? But something is telling me that even people that's outside of America might not always put personal information all like that online. Sometimes I think Americans can be more forward in putting out personal information on social media, the being seen and wanting to be seen, because even in other lands it's more regulated. Even in the Middle East it's more regulated. You can even ask Janet Jackson about that. You can ask all type of individuals that travel and have been all abroad, right, where it is more heavily regulated, as in they're not going to just be sitting online putting all personal information all out there yet you do have individuals that do that sort of thing. You would want to question, do they do that over in Japan? We're all overseas does information, personal, real, very vital personal information get put online, and yet it's not Americans doing it. That's to say, too, point in why regulation would want to be there, because even if you gain access to say, well, not all information is going to be there, and yet it can be found somewhat again in groups. People join up because see, if I'm all across social media platforms. I in fact use Hootsuite. You ever heard of Hootsuite, dear viewer? Where you can post on multiple accounts at once, right? 5 or 6 accounts at once using Hootsuite, right? People, it's a social management, I won't say platform, program for that sort of thing, right? And yet you do, once again, have people that say can be linked, involved in terrorism or whatnot. And when I'm saying this is because on certain social media platforms in which I've been on, somebody might in fact say, come friend me or something like that, or follow or whatever, right? Or Instagram, with all that, right? They come along and come up behind me, and yet when I go onto their account, there's nothing there. That's why I made a habit of not friending people and all the rest with that, because to not know me is to say you're not going to be following me. And also, if there's multiple accounts being made by a person, I'm not going to allow you to be on mine, because remember, you already got one account, so you don't need to be on my account with multiple accounts. And if it's somebody I don't know, you really don't need to be on my stuff, right? I just get tired of seeing the fakeness with that. But so what I'm trying to say is, you do have individuals that do be all over the globe. I've witnessed it on my account, right? Or where they come and they friend you, and then once you look at the account, nothing is in fact there. They're just on, because even on Instagram people do that, which is why I'm saying it. You got a lot of people that join Instagram and they're only on there basically just to watch people watch, and yet they don't post their own stuff. And that's not to put them down, but that's to say in a sense they don't have a real life. That's not saying that you don't, that's not me putting people down all like that. All I'm saying is it helps to have your own personality, so people know that you're there and they're able to see that you exist and all the rest with that, right? People might in fact want to friend you if you show who you are, as in show who you are. Show yourself off, as in your face. You ain't got to show that you got a big house, a fancy car, and all the rest with that. No. Just showing who you are. Like minds attract like minds, right? And yet that whole people watching thing, because if I go on an account that has come and friended me and they want to get to know me, and yet nothing in fact is there, is to say, well, why are we on here together? That's not gonna work at all. Let me pause right quick because I'm reading. When you ask me what I'm doing, I'm going off of what I'm reading, but at the same time, Discovery News is in fact rolling across my screen. You can't see it as I'm on here up top. You see that up top? That is in fact flashing and flickering right here, as well as at the far left is flashing yes, the logos and all the rest, but at the bottom is Discovery News. It points me and showing, yes, as well as you too if you had access to see. But I had to pause with that because to miss out is to say you're gonna miss what's good. But yeah, I don't like stuff like that if there's nothing there, which I already said this for the 10th time, which could be why everything is going to be regulated, in which it is. Because if you got people on here sitting on Instagram or wherever else and they're just people watching this to say their account is empty, you can't see who they are, is blinded, is what I'm trying to say. I don't like when stuff is blinded. I might in fact wear shades, but I don't like sitting amongst people where stuff is blinded because I don't know what's going on. And I don't get into terrorism or terrorist act, and I don't advise anybody to sit amongst me with that sort of activity, as in you're sitting too close. Go over there. That sort of thing causes issues. So it was in fact Donald Trump who issued the rules. Donald Trump was the one who issued the rules March of 2018. As well as if anyone lies about their social media usage, they could in fact face serious immigration consequences. Yeah, because the only reason why is because of terrorism. If you think back to 2011, that all pinpoints as well. Because people follow in the footsteps of other individuals when you have terrorism that goes on the way that it did, like September 11th, right? Stuff like that. People come here, visitors, immigrants, and all the rest, and they repeat certain actions, right? You want to prevent that sort of thing because it puts innocent people in harm's way, blowing up buildings and blowing up all this and that, right? So groups such as American Civil Liberties Union, a civil rights group, doesn't completely agree to the rule over self-censorship issues. They feel American Civil Liberties Union, a civil rights group, doesn't completely agree with Donald Trump on this new enforcement because they feel that it imposes self-censoring. That such, in fact, is a censoring of yourself. Self-censorship. It poses self-censorship issues. So tell me, dear viewer, what you feel about that. What do you feel about the whole new regulation with that? Do you think it's of benefit to American soil, or what do you feel and believe about it? So questions. I just asked that. What do you feel about visitors and immigrants and the situation of Trump wanting immigrants to hand over personal social media information? I'm asking this because this in fact affects you as well. It affects everybody in your inner circle as well as outside of your inner world. It affects everything. The globe. It affects Wall Street. Everything. Because if somebody come through with a bomb or anything like that, is to say that's gonna have a effect on Wall Street. It just has to, right? Because of no global affairs delve in with global, yes, with that, everything affects everything, right? So what good would such do? This providing information. What good would this information? What would such do? The regulation. What good come out of such? What bad come out of such? And do you feel such is an intrusion? Do you think all of this is intrusion on personal activity? How would you yourself want to know? How much would you want to know about visitors and immigrants? How much would you yourself want to know about visitors and immigrants who are not U.S. citizens, who are allowed to pass through the United States? What all would you want to know? As in, how far and lovely and deep would you want to delve in on these people? Another question: should there be a reduction on visitors and immigrants allowed into the U.S.? That's the very same question I just asked, and yet it's asked in a different way, right? Should there be a reduction on visitors and immigrants allowed into the U.S.? I allow you, the viewer, to answer that back. So do visitors or immigrants benefit U.S. soil or take away from U.S. soil, even in visitation? Do you feel visitors or immigrants benefit us here in the U.S. In visitation, or is something taken away with that? Not a lot of people in this United States of a box of America, just like I'm in this box right above my head in the rest screen, something like that design, right? Not everybody gets into that sort of thing, allowing visitors or immigrants to come here in the United States. They feel that it poses issues, right? Not only that, they don't know when people come here what all they are in fact doing while they're here, because they know that secrecy can be involved in that. Is to say, well, what are the activities? You in fact will want to question that yourself. If you don't, you want to question when people come here to America from foreign lands. Well, not foreign lands, let me use a different term. Not outer space. No, the alien is not gonna work either. Outside territories and all the rest, right? That's Discovery's terminology, not mine's, right? Same, one and the two, right? You in fact want to know what these people are doing when they visit here, because to say that activity more could be underneath all is to say, well, why do some people visit back and forth and not always tell the truth about where they're at, right? You have some people that they be a part of groups and they're not from Brazil, and yet there's certain type of groups that always say that they're from Brazil and that yet they're not, right? And so you're like, well, why don't they just say that they're from wherever they're from, right? They use that as a covering or something, right? Yeah, you want to know what's going on with that. So have you yourself had any encounters with immigrants, good or bad? Leave the answer in the comment section, dear viewer. Once again, yeah, because with me, I want to know, what are they doing? Visitors, immigrants, and everybody all between that's coming here. As in to keep track on them with that, because to not is to say even that can pose issues if you don't keep track of individuals. That's in fact a truth. That's how stuff gotta get out of hand. Not got out of hand, get out of hand, even publicly. When you're standing somewhere and say a bomb go off, and then it's some type of terrorism or terrorist act, and you don't even know where to stand, because you're like, well, how did I end up in this? How did I become a part of this? That reminds me of that Ariana Grande concert that happened. Was that 2 years ago? Was that 2 years ago? I think it was. When she was in Europe, though, and a bomb went off and killed a few kids that was in fact in attendance at her concert, right? That's to say, well, where was the regulation at with that, right? Did somebody not do their job? Or maybe they did. Maybe the people were just sitting there amongst, because see, look, infiltration, in a sense, that's not really the best term, and yet it is, where people come in and they come in from various territories or across the border, right, wherever, and they come and they live amongst you, right? You in fact don't know that they're there until something happens, right? Even in visitation, because even people have blood relatives that they allow to come back and forth. You get what I'm saying with this? Where Say because I'm American born and bred, right? Thoroughbred, something like that. No horses involved. I'm from America, right? When it comes to say if I was, let me see, if I was from Mexico or somewhere, or if I was from the Middle East or somewhere, and I came to America and I'm here living as a legal American US citizen, right? But say I got blood relatives and I want them to come visit me back and forth, or say they're immigrants or whatever, what with that, right? That's to say they can almost be infiltrated in a sense. I keep thinking about that because every time I think about that Ariana Grande concert over in Europe, her show being blown up, as to say there's more situations like that, right? It could have been worse, right? That could be coming in the near future, or who knows, could point tomorrow or something, right? You don't know who's living where and what, who has family members and all the rest tied to what, right? Making visitations, and then there you have it. Because that's the ask, well, when they do visitations, are they spending the night with their relatives? They don't even have to spend the night, and yet a bomb can be made with even that, because if they got family that's already here, is to say, well, their family members possibly know how to make bombs and all the rest. And that's not to scare people, that's just to point in. September 11th, in fact, did happen. And that's to ask, well, okay, the individuals, they either lived here or they was visitors or immigrants or whatever when it comes to any type of terrorist act, right? But there's a almost like a live-in process with that. Because if a terrorist live here and they got people, I'm repeating this for the 15th time, if a terrorist live here on American soil and they got family members or friends or whoever coming back and forth, it's to say that very individual that lives here, that's having visitors and immigrants come back and forth, the person that lives here might in fact know how to build bombs and all the rest, which is how they do their handiwork together. And people don't realize what I just said with that. It's not always the visitors and the immigrants. Sometimes it's the very people at home that's doing the destruction. Not government, no. People that's living here that are already terrorists, and they have friends or family members coming in and out from abroad. Helps to pay attention, as in be wide awake with that. I have to share and say that sort of thing. Those who commit the most destruction sometimes are often in fact at home on US soil, and it's not always immigrants and visitors. They just walk along with that in it. Their discovery. So on last night, the ID logo sits up on the far left. I had it there and yet it disappeared, right? InvestigationDiscovery.com is in fact where we are sitting at. You can in fact come back to this yourself to gain an audio visual preview. I got so much stuff on my screen I can't see. Excuse me. Unlock episodes. To click the play button to receive an audio visual. I should say that in my next video. I think I said that already. Excuse me. The reason why I don't look into the camera is because I got too much on my screen. I just do. To receive an audio visual preview, it's a click in the play button right here, and you would in fact receive an audio visual preview. Murder Loves Company season 1 episode 2. You can in fact scroll through these yourself. I said that already. To gain access, lock and key right here, as I know it's padlocked down. You can gain access with that. You gotta in fact provide who your provider is, as in who you're subscribed to. And I don't know what's going on with the screen. I'm guessing it's a blackout or something right there, because I know that recommended for you should be here, as to say it's not there. Dear Discovery, get it together. No call, no show with that. As in it's gone, it's not there. ID Go original series, something like that. Everything is not here. As in when there's a vending machine, it should in fact be there. Hello, so to speak, the vending machine. That's why we on here. Crime Feed News, crimefeed.com. To gain access to the Crime Feed is a click right within here. You would in fact be directed to the Crime Feed. Crime Feed News, full of latest, greatest, and mayhem, destruction, as well as that. Maybe the Crime Feed in fact shot off our vending machine that is supposed to be right here. To receive a newsletter, type your email address in and click next. You would in fact receive a newsletter from Investigation Discovery. Yeah, I can't look at my screen. I'm saying I can't look into the camera. I have too much going on. I'm too digitalized over here. I think it was in fact another young individual on YouTube that doesn't look at the camera. Because the focus. It's a focus. If I'm looking at this as I say, well, what is going on with that? I'm not trying to be Terminator coming back through the screen. Does that make sense? I'm trying to, in fact, focus on where I'm going. Well, something just popped up. That ain't gonna work either. Wait a minute. That ain't gonna work either. So it helps to be robotic and yet not too much, right? I gotta focus. So I think that's all to be said for now. Leave me a comment in the comment section. And I'm gone. Oh, it's too much on my screen. I'm looking at like I know, because see, to live stream is to have the clock running as well, and yet I'm at 26 minutes and I'm looking down at the clock right where it says live, right? And I'm like, why does the clock say 0? That's because I'm recording and not live streaming. Helps to be a fool for a second, as I just did. So I think that's all to be said for now. I'm gone. Enjoy your day. I will in fact enjoy mine.